Okay, so the introduction video, let's talk quickly about the context of what I want to hit and what I want to guide on, right? And so the context is going to be a ministry that's in the inner city that is not just formally teaching English, right? The whole goal is actually to be an after-school program where kids can come into school, into our building, into our doors, have a safe place to be kids, and to not have the downtime that they might have to go out and make bad decisions. Because the idea is that it's in an area where these kids have a really rough home life and a really rough neighborhood, and so the idea is to get them out of that as much as possible, so that way they're not making bad decisions by joining in different activities that are already going on in their neighborhoods that are not good for them, right? But I still think that in that, because naturally not naturally, I guess this doesn't happen in all places, but the thought is that in this, there's also kids that don't speak English fluently. So we're going to have majority of them, which are going to be fluent speakers of English. And then we're also going to have a non-majority of them, which are going to be non-fluent speakers of English. And that's really on a wide range, from kids in kindergarten that have been here for, they've grown up here and so they speak English perfectly fine, all the way to kids who just moved here in their sophomore year of high school and they're just now learning English for the first time, right? So it's anywhere in that K to 12 range where it's relatively anywhere on that proficiency level of English as well. And so the goal is, how can we bring TESOL and English as a second language into this type of context, right? Because we're not formally teaching in a classroom about English. Our whole goal is to just get them kind of into our building where they can be safe and be kids. But there's still different ways that we can kind of teach them English through them being there. And so that's the goal, is how do we do that in this informal setting where we're all about just getting them here. And so the reason, so that's context, that's bringing them in, and then how do we implement TESOL into that, which I'll discuss about a lot here in the future, because I think there's a lot of cool ways that we can actually do it. But why should we, right? And so I want to talk to this in a faith-based manner, and I think this can also be how faith can affect us, is if we look at the Gospels or anywhere throughout the Bible, we can look in the Old Testament too, we see God or Jesus coming down and meeting us where we're at. Like, Jesus is literally God meeting us where we're at, becoming a human, becoming God in flesh, right? Like, he's both God and man. He's meeting us where we're at just so that he can feel the temptation. He can feel the pain, right? He's meeting us where we're at. And I think it's vital that we do the same for them, right? So the whole goal of this ministry is to meet these kids where they're at, which is in a rougher neighborhood and around some rougher situations where they need someone to be there. They need that adult presence for them, and they need that good influence. And then also meeting those that don't speak English. Why do we need to meet those that don't speak English, though? Well, we're in a primarily English-speaking culture or country, right? And so really, if you want to do anything to survive here, you need English. And so it is vital, not only because of our faith and because Jesus models, my computer's getting loud, because Jesus models us meeting people where they're at, but simply because they're living somewhere where it's vital to be able to communicate, and English is the way to do that primarily. And so it's a context of ministry where we are meeting them in their neighborhood where it's rougher and a little bit hard, right? But also meeting them in their language needs in a way that might be a little bit unconventional and untraditional to a normal ESL classroom. The hope is maybe we can have an ESL professional from a local school who is teaching classes or who is helping our volunteers understand how to interact with these kids of different languages and cultures. But I don't know exactly how reasonable that is and how likely that is to be able to happen. And so the idea is a ministry where there is primarily English-speaking kids, but there's also some non-English-speaking kids, and we want to help them just in day-to-day activity figure out how to speak English. And so I'll speak to what that kind of looks like, because that's very vague, but I think there's one way that really works towards that in the next video, where I'll talk about different theories, so kind of like nativism and that kind of stuff. Wink, wink. That's the one I think will help a lot, as well as another one. But just before I jump into the next videos, I want to do a disclaimer in this video that most videos, not all of them, will have a description And in the description, I'm going to have a glossary of words that I use throughout this. So like I'll put TESOL in there, I'll put ESL in there, ESL professional, that kind of thing. And I'll put a little glossary for each video. And then in the last video, I'll also put a summative one that has all the video glossaries combined in there. That way it can have a glossary as well. So, but yeah, that's the context. And that's why, based on faith and also just need, because they need to be able to survive here. So there we go. Let's jump into the next video, shall we?